Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all doing okay. The A lot of questions still regarding antiviral substances, and of course, never, ever, ever, not once has mainstream medicine ever validated the validated the effectiveness of natural substances. Anytime a natural substance historically had come onto the market and touted as a treatment or helpful with certain conditions, never has mainstream news, mainstream medicine, mainstream politics ever validated the usefulness of those items. One of the biggest travesties, I think, had been how they vilified Linus Pauling. Anytime you take on somebody who, quote unquote, should have won 3 Nobel Prizes, but only won 2, did I say only? And you take him on and you vilify him and you degrade him and you joke about him and you try to discredit him, you take on somebody who knew more than you did and knows more than the people who are criticizing him. You can put all those people criticizing Linus Pauling, put them all together in the room, and all their brains would still never know as much as Linus Pauling. He was the Einstein of chemistry and medicine, and his work has changed many things in life. And one time vitamin C was a joke. It was going to hurt your kidneys. It was going to cause metabolic problems. It was just all kinds of issues. It didn't work at all. And basically, now we turn around, and that was mainstream's position, by the way. And now we turn around today, and in every state, people are doing vitamin C infusions for cancer patients. And the same thing can be held true about colloidal silver. An article was put out by a mainstream agency or organization claiming that colloidal silver had no useful benefits and could be harmful. What? That's the exact same thing they said about Linus Pauling's vitamin C's therapy for viral infections and for cancer. And the colloidal silver, to me, has been huge in my life because while I was doing this channel and while I was in the middle of the Higher Truth channel, that one channel that used to have almost 90,000 subscribers before it was yanked, I had contracted an aggressive form of Lyme disease, and it was my own fault. and I had taken colloidal silver for almost a year or two to stay ahead of the infection. I also take garlic every day, garlic oil, pearls, every single day. And when I go off of it for a long period of time, I feel that I become more susceptible to infectious things, especially living under stress and duress and anxiety. But the colloidal silver, it made a world of difference. And it cleared the spirochete bacterium out of my bloodstream. But it did not, I wasn't using nanoparticles, I was using average size colloid. And I know people who put themselves in remission using various colloidal silver products. There is tons of research now. Sorry, I shouldn't say tons. There is ample research that demonstrates exactly how colloidal silver works, especially on viruses, but also bacterium, parasites, and even fungus and yeast. So it's radically, but the colloidal silver has been horribly misrepresented, and it's unfortunate because it's a great survival tool. I mean, if you don't want to go to the doctor, if you don't want to go to the hospital, if you don't want to go to the pharmacy, if you don't want to do all that, having a bottle stashed in a nice dark place is recommended. Still a lot of questions. Somebody asked, and I keep referring to this because I think I gave the guy a wrong answer, and I haven't heard back from him. But I just wanted to let him know that his question is still staying with me regarding the nose spray. Now, I know for a fact the ionized silver absorbs into the bloodstream through the nasal route. It bypasses the stomach usually, so you're not risking forming silver chloride in your stomach, which is not bioavailable and leads to changing of the color of the skin. Many people, wrongfully so and horribly wrongfully so, say that colloidal silver will gray your skin, which it does not. I'm living proof. But I have, every cancer patient that I knew was recommended to take colloidal silver. One, because of a lowered immune system. Two, because minerals, when they get inside the cell, attract oxygen into the cell. And if you have a cancer cell that ferments, which is an anaerobic process, pulling oxygen into the cell usually inhibits a cancer cell from doing what it likes to do. So it's very, very discouraging when we have the whole world shutting down and people are vilifying, wrongfully so, and actually fraudulently so, the benefits that colloidal silver provides you. And I used to take nothing but vitamin C for my colds, and I've talked about this phenomenon, and I've even had people write in, and you can look on some of the chat lines and the threads on some of the premieres. There's people who are taking vitamin C right now for a cold, and they don't know if it's COVID or what, but they're taking it. And they're talking about the phenomenon of bouncing in and out of remission. Well, when somebody says I'm bouncing in and out of remission, what they're telling you is that something is happening that the mainstream says cannot happen. That vitamin C cannot push a cold into remission. But here I am talking about this phenomenon, about coming in and out of remission if you're taking just vitamin C alone, because you deplete your blood levels so quickly, and inhibiting viral replication, especially inside the cell, requires a very high blood level of vitamin C. So the colloidal silver, when I took it with the vitamin C, I found that my viral infections were coming out of dormancy as quick. I was getting 12 to 24 hours relief, and when the cold comes back, it wasn't further progressed. Usually when you bounce in and out, the cold gains an inch. The virus gains just a fraction of an inch and then you put it back into remission, it comes back. So slowly, when you keep letting it come back, it's affecting more cells in your respiratory tract than it did on the prior remission. But the notion that you're even talking about a remission of your symptoms is not supposed to be happening according to everybody in mainstream. But now there's been so much documentation, there's been toxicity trials, there's been phase 2, and even when people try to trash vitamin C by destroying and not replicating Linus Pauling's laboratory or clinical experiments, they still were documenting a decrease in symptoms. and a 30% decrease in symptoms was the minimum that was detected by an AMA study that was set out to destroy Linus Pauling's report that cold viruses can be put into remission. You can reduce 70 to 90% of your symptoms. Well, and they're like, oh, he's wrong. It only relieved 30%. So here in debunking, this is how stupid some of these people are. Because you can never lie in science without contradicting something. And so here they come with the contradiction. Well, it doesn't work, blah blah blah. But we only recorded a 30% reduction in symptoms. Well, they were first saying it didn't reduce symptoms at all. Now they're saying it reduced symptoms by 30% when they were trying to replicate a Linus Pauling trial, and which they failed to replicate, by the way, in terms of dosing. So when you don't even dose it correctly to a trial, you cannot really use it to debunk a trial, but they did. A far, far departure from the scientific process, which has been the new norm, by the way. So the silver, we know how it works. The studies, I've taken you to the studies. I've posted links to the study. I've screen captured those studies. I've put them on videos for you, just to show you. And one of the studies that was very, very telling was one that talked about HIV and silver, and also on the same study, influenza. So the influenza virus is supposed to be similar to the coronavirus. So I'm not going to say it will help stop replication of the coronavirus, but when you find out how all this stuff works, you're like, well, I don't know biochemically how it couldn't help a viral infection of coronavirus. The attachment is, again, electropositive, electronegative. Virus particles carry a polarity, and certain things attach to that virus, and one of those is minerals. And so the heavier the mineral, the better it seems to attach. I really think cesium chloride is a great antiviral. It's now been banned because it was a cancer treatment for alkaline therapies. Colloidal silver attaches to viruses, and when you look at the nanoparticles, they have the ability to attach to DNA. And when you're talking about double-stranded DNA. So if it has the ability to attach to guanine receptors or adenine receptor in your DNA, which that's what the studies, I didn't pull those names just right out of my ear. Those are from the studies, adenine and guanine receptors for silver. And the thing about the studies that bother me is the failure to discern whether you're looking at a true nanoparticle or if you're looking at an ionized particle. But they use the word nanoparticle. So imagine what a single-stranded DNA then that has adenine and guanine. Imagine how susceptible they are to attachment. And when you attach something to adenine or guanine in an RNA, it can prevent transcription of that RNA, the copying of that RNA. In humans, in the double-stranded DNA, the study has found that in the telomeres and in DNA itself, it seems to prevent errors and mutations in DNA. As does ormus, a form of ionized gold, as does copper-1, ionized form of copper. And so these really healthy, noble metals that are, kind of like a mineral, kind of like a metal, and these are shown to lengthen your telomeres on your DNA, prevent transcription errors, but it seems to really inhibit replication of the virus. And when the virus carries externally an electropositive charge, the silver will coat it, and so will the humic acid, and during replication, and transcription, the vitamin C also prevents replication. So you're taking three things that inhibit replication at different levels of the virus. And I know people that thought they had coronavirus. I know right now I know people that are taking silver, vitamin C. Some are taking silver, vitamin C, and humic acid. And it's just acting like other viruses. So if Linus Pauling writes, a two-time Nobel Prize-winning chemist who should have won 3 Nobel Prizes in chemistry and medicine. Actually, one of his Nobel Prizes was a Peace Prize, but he should have won another Nobel Prize for chemistry and medicine in addition to his first Nobel Prize in chemistry and medicine. And he said, the name of his book is Vitamin C and Influenza and the Common Cold. Or vitamin C in the common cold and influenza. So he's telling you, a two-time Nobel Prize-winning biochemist is telling you vitamin C treats influenza and reduces your symptoms. And so why wouldn't it work on the coronavirus? I don't know. I really don't know why it wouldn't. But I'm not going to make that claim without having truly identified a coronavirus. But when somebody in healthcare comes in contact with a patient who's confirmed positive, and the doctor turns positive, and the technician turns positive that were in the operating room with that patient, and then all of a sudden a third person in the operating room starts coming down with symptoms, and those symptoms persist, and they can't go to work, they can't get a test, what do you do? And so we're going to interview one of those people, so you need to stay tuned. It's very eye-opening interviews that are coming up. So the silver, the vitamin C, humic acid are perfect combination. And what we were seeing with the water-soluble Emergent C, which is what this one person I'm referring to was taking, Emergent C, the powdered form, which is immediate release, also has lots of minerals in it. And she was taking that with the colloidal silver, and immediately within 10 minutes her symptoms would subside, her tightness in her chest would go away, but each time she let it come back. And the silver and vitamin C was prolonging the remission. Instead of 4 to 8 hours, it was 12 to 24 hours before she started getting symptoms again. Usually waking up in the morning, because that's an 8-hour period without dosing. That's a whole 8-hour period. So people who are taking vitamin C only do often wake up not feeling better, and their symptoms are returning by morning because they didn't carry through the night a blood level that was sufficient. Her symptoms were progressing, but very, very slowly. She didn't become overwhelmed. But some of these autopsies show that patients had CD4, CD8 white cell suppression, which is, mimics an HIV infection where your CD4s go bye-bye, and those are a type of white cell. Now, white cells are meant to fight infection. So when CD4, CD8 goes down, I don't know how you overcome your respiratory distress. 80% to 90% of the people on ventilators die. So the ventilator is a last-ditch emergency effort to save a patient, but you're treating the symptoms with a ventilator. You're not treating the virus. You're managing the symptoms, but you're not treating the virus. So when you have a pandemic that's really, really severe, and you have people that knowingly know that there's things that are beneficial, and they distort the picture, they scare you from it, they tell you lies, and disinformation is a lie, and that stuff is life-saving. What does that make those people? What does that make them? I mean, if it's accidental and they're mistaken, that makes them negligent. But if they know better, if they know this stuff does have benefit, and they knowingly lie about it, what does that make them? And it's important to understand that the research is there. I mean, the research is there. They can't get it off the internet yet, anyways, and give them time. And Walmart and a couple people are making a big play on silver products right now. So, and luckily, some of these silver providers aren't selling out to the big box companies. And it's important that you combine antivirals that are meant to be combined. Now, when people are talked down, this is another one, the chloroquine. When people talk down the chloroquine, and quinine sulfate has a lower side effect profile than the chloroquine, then quinine is, in fact, antiviral. When they give it for diseases that are associated with viral infections, like certain autoimmunes, those people test positive for Epstein-Barr, cytomegalo, retrovirus A. Those are the three big ones in autoimmune disease. And there's a relationship there. There's even a book that was written called Autoimmune and Viruses. That was the name of the book. And the book was trying to debunk the viral autoimmune connection. But when you make the title Viruses and Autoimmune Disease, or Autoimmune and Viruses, I forgot which came first, you're openly admit that there's a relationship. Why would you write a book about it? Why would you need to? Write a book of how something doesn't work. That's amazing. I want to read a book on something that does work. So the virus antiviral properties of humic acid, colloidal silver, liposomal vitamin C, regular vitamin C are in fact on the record. We've provided the links. We'll provide them again. And we want you to be safe. One last thing. People are calling this virus a hoax, this and that it's just the flu, it's just the flu. And I mean, we don't know what's going on. And that hot mic thing was interesting. The hot mic in the press room, we don't know if that was a setup. Who knows? But the guy says, "Oh, we've all been vaccinated." That somebody needs to pull that guy and interview him and see what was going on, what he meant by that. Somebody needs to grab a hold of him by the collar and say, "Please expand upon your statement." But I've seen the autopsy reports, and I'm in healthcare. I'm talking to doctors. I'm talking to nurses. I'm talking to technicians. I'm talking to anesthesiologists or people who work with anesthesiologists. I'm talking to people that have had this thing, that might have this thing. I've talked to people that knew people who were positive, and there's a virus out there, and they've done lab studies on it. They've isolated it, and there's so much confusing report. We don't know what's going on, but we do know there's a bioweapon that has been released. And I know people that have died from severe viral infections. That happened in November. And I know people who were horribly sick in November, October, and December. I've known that flu that went around took out entire families, and not in terms of death, but in terms of taking them out of circulation for a while. And it spread to the whole family. Once in a while there's one or two people in the household that may not get the cold, but everybody got the cold when this stuff went around. And it's important that we not draw the conclusion that this virus doesn't exist, because it does exist. And I'm first-hand knowledge. It exists. The laboratory studies by non-globalist countries identifying insert proteins, proteases that don't exist in most viruses. They've even compared it to bat virus, the bat SARS and the bat coronavirus, and they're finding that this bug is different. And so what's really happening? What's going on here? And it, never let a good disaster go to waste. That's what's going on here. And when you start drawing and defending the president, or you start defending people that you voted for, you've lost your objectivity just because you voted for them. That's the only loss of objectivity there is. You made the right choice. You're a smart person. You made the right choice. You elected the right person, and so when somebody criticizes what's happening in America, there's, instead of mobilizing and scrutinizing, and instead of asking questions, and instead of investigating, and instead of unifying, which is what we should all be doing right now, we're bickering over whose fault is it. Is it Trump's fault or isn't it? And that's what the bulk of the population is doing. So it's a very, very dangerous notion with this virus, because it is I hate saying the word because it gets me flagged, but it is a biological weapon. And there's a paper trail all the way from Harvard Biochem department. Remember, that's the place, the origins of the Skull and Bones secret society. Yeah, Harvard also had contracts with the Department of Defense with this stuff, and so now Wuhan, with the paper trail led right to Wuhan Institute itself. So when you want to point the finger at everybody that deals with this stuff and that is dealing with this stuff. Now, the media is trying to rescue Fauci's reputation. They're getting people like Brad Pitt to stand up. And Brad, we don't care what your opinion is, okay? You didn't graduate in virology. You didn't graduate in microbiology. You haven't taken a biochemistry class. You took acting classes. So that makes you an authority on nothing. So when the Hollywood decides to make you a spokesperson to the credibility of Dr. Fauci, you need to understand one thing. We don't care what your opinion is, and we would like you to continue to entertain us, but please don't try to manipulate us by using your notoriety. But the silver attaches both externally and at the RNA level. The RNA level attachment is with nanoparticles. The external attachment doesn't really matter what size your particle is. The ionized silver is clear. If you take it too much of it, it'll cause graying of the skin. The ionized silver can be sprayed up the nose to bypass the stomach route. It will not turn your skin gray if you take ionized silver up the nose. The problem with taking ionized silver up the nose to treat a viral infection, I think it's great for treating a nasal infection, but if you got something down in your lungs and this thing's systemic, we don't know what your blood levels are. You don't know what your blood levels are. The people who sold you the nose spray don't know what your blood levels are. So you can pretty much go by symptoms, but your nose is only going to be able to take so much ionized silver. The nasal wash, to me, is a great idea, and if I made some for myself, I thought it worked really good. It was a Lyme thing experiment. It was biofilm in the nose, very sticky, and that biofilm was disturbing. And so I began breaking it down and treating that biofilm. I think there needs to be so I hope this answers some of your questions. The links, we're going to post them again to the research. The research is there, and to me, the most valuable research is the one on the HIV, influenza viruses, and I think they even did hepatitis. So the silver was slow in getting depleted. Now that Walmart's making a play, the silver's there's going to be a run on silver too, and so consider yourself lucky if you've already have possession of it. So if you do want to share this video, please feel free, and until next time, be prepared, not scared.